Tuesday, and welcome to the MSL Lead Chronicles. It's a podcast on a mission in medical affairs and leadership. I'm Mary Morton, and along with my buddy, Chad Fellers, we're going to have casual talk about important topics and challenges in leadership. And we are so glad you're here. Stay tuned.
So welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles. I am your host, Chad Fellers, with my nifty sidekick, soon to be age sidekick. Someone's got a birthday that's coming up, Mary Morton. How are you, Mary?
I'm terrific as always.
How are you?
I do have a birthday coming up.
How are you celebrating your last year in your 30s?
My 30s. I don't have any plans.
Or last day, rather, not last year. Okay, well,
I don't have any plans because as you probably know, when you get into your 30s,
yeah,
sometimes you just don't want to celebrate it all that much anymore. So, Paige is out of town. She usually does something really big for me, but she went down to Daytona to watch an endurance race thing with her friends.
I think they call that Girls Gone Wild. I hope that's not the same type of thing that she was at.
You have
there
met my
anyway.
daughter, you know.
Yes, I have.
She is the last person that you would. It's not that kind of a Daytona weekend. It's literally car races. Like they have, the new fascination with Miatas. I don't know, if anybody has seen there's a renewed fashion with Miatas. One of the races is just Miatas.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I know. You learn something here every day.
Wow. I feel much more educated, but I know not only are we going to, very important stuff. So glad that you're still here after Texas loss. I didn't know if we'd see you again after a while since our last podcast, but nevertheless, we'll just go ahead and get into it. We'll think about things that will make us happy, will make actually even thrive, right? So that's just teeing up a little bit.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So with that, I think we're going to have a fantastic conversation. I know we're going to have a fantastic conversation today. And with that, speaking of Thrive, let's talk a little about Thrive MSL and our guest today.
Okay. And I get to do the introduction as I always do. It's my favorite part. So I am introducing everyone to our fabulous guest today, Shelby Oksman. Shelby is a PharmD. She began her career as a pharmacy practice resident, inpatient pharmacist, and her diverse professional experience includes serving as a pharmacy residency director, a long-term care pharmacist, and so I'm going to need your pick your brain a little bit on that because I need to learn
Because your birthday? Because your birthday?
As you just said, I'm in my 30s. Why should I be thinking about long-term care just yet? And as an academician. So she began her medical affairs career in 2010, so like 15 years ago. And she had an MSL position at a major pharmaceutical company. So she also served as an MSL at a small biotech company before moving into MSL leadership. She managed both regional and national teams at that point. I think I know a couple of people that you worked with very closely because they're a client of mine right now. But, through all of that, she's been coaching people and mentoring people for many years. So Shelby is the founder and an MSL coach at Thrive MSL. She is dedicated to empowering and equipping both aspiring MSLs, current MSLs, and MSL leadership to excel both professionally and personally. In many conversations that she and I had, I've learned that there are so many things, more than we probably all know, that we can still learn. So thank you again, Shelby, for joining us. Would you like to add anything?
I think you nailed it there, Mary. I am ready to dive in.
Really excited, Shelby, to have you on here, and just even listening to that introduction. Fantastic. I know that that's our core mission here as well, is just leadership development and supporting one another, right? So I love your focus. So with that, before we dig in, as customary here on MSL Lead Chronicles, we like to start with the key takeaways of things that you want to make sure that the listeners are able to walk away with. If they need to come back and listen more at another time, that's great. But with those, why don't you share the key takeaways you want to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, well, thanks, Chad, and thanks, Mary, for the invite. First and foremost, thrilled to be here. And thank you to Mary for the comprehensive introduction. Key takeaways, a couple things. I wanted today to focus a little bit about my journey in how I've utilized Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept we're going to talk a little bit more about, and how that can be useful in uncovering what your passion is and aligning your professional brand. That's number one. The second is around professional branding for MSLs and MSL leaders, and how it is such a powerful tool in shaping how others perceive you, your expertise, your credibility, and of course, your value. And last, but certainly not least, is around continuing to tailor and to update your professional brand throughout your career, no matter if you're seeking to transition into an MSL role, you are in an MSL role and might be in the future, pursuing other opportunities, or as an MSL leader, keeping it fresh, tailoring it to your audience, and ensuring that it truly captures your signature story. So that's where the takeaways and how what I'd like to talk about today. So, and of course, anything else that comes up, any other questions, we'll do it.
Let's dig into it. So first of all, it's not IKEA, it's Ikigai, right? So I'm so glad that you said it first before I asked a little bit more about it. I've heard about it, but I didn't know how to say it, especially from Arkansas. So Ikigai. So tell me,
you beat me to
tell
it.
me more. I know I was just preemptive, Mary, preemptive strike. Tell us about Ikigai and how you came about to learning what it is and implementing. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so I have been to Japan 2 times, and it was in a different realm. It was nothing to do with medical affairs or my MSL journey, but I've gone a couple times, and one of the things and a concept that was founded there, Ikigai is a Japanese word. There is no English translation. So it really is focused on discovering what truly matters to you, so what your passion is, and then aligning your choices in terms of life with those passions and what brings you purpose. I have used this a couple of different times. So I was introduced to it by a Japanese businessman, actually, on my travels. And what happened for me is, as with many in the MSL industry, about a year ago, I was laid off. And it gave me an opportunity really to pause and reflect, which I hadn't had in a bit of time, right? You can go along your professional journey, you go from one position to the next. And I thought, what a great opportunity right then, right there, to utilize this Ikigai concept to truly do a little bit of a personal inventory, learn about what might be a next right fit for me on my journey. So if you Google this, you're going to find a bit of information about the concept as a Japanese concept. What you'll also likely find is a westernized kind of Venn diagram. And what it's going to look like is kind of 4 overlapping circles. And it will include information concepts around what your passion is. So what you love to do, about what your vocation is, what you're good at doing, what your mission is, which is what the world needs. Last but certainly not least, your profession. So what you can get paid to do. And when those things align in the very center of that diagram, it's called Ikigai. So again, a little bit of a westernized interpretation. So I spent about 3 months really reflecting, pausing, thinking, what was calling to me as a next opportunity. And so this past May, I founded and launched Thrive MSL. That was the next thing. My heart, my passion is for MSLs and MSL leaders. And I've been coaching, as Mary said, for the last 15 years, specific to MSLs, but also, I've had almost a 30-year PharmD career. I have had a huge background. I've worked with students, residents, fellows, healthcare providers, of course, MSLs. So really aligned with the passion around coaching and helping people, achieve their potential and their passion and their calling. So
okay, wait. When did this trip to Japan happen? During the time that you were caught in the downsizing, or is it something you reached back to?
That's exactly it, Mary. I had gone in 2018 to Japan a couple times with my husband, and we took our family one time. So it was something that I had an awareness about. And I think what I realized is that not only is it about pursuing what's next in your passion, what you find that you love to do and what for, but also in terms of, oh, you found it. Yes, perfect. Also around what, how you can, your professional branding. And I lead those and I connect those together because if you can figure out your why, right, and what you're great at doing and what your next calling is in terms of your work, you can really align a professional brand that stands out and is truly authentic to you.
So I really want to dig into this, but not too much because I know you got a lot of stuff that you were going to get to. But what was that moment like last year when you were laid off and you're like, you had this epiphany that you needed to, like, 6 years ago, I learned about this. I mean, I have chills, actually. I get chills a lot, I'll tell you. But thinking about that moment where you're like, this is it. I need to do this practice and figure out where I'm meant to be.
Mary, I feel like we can all recall moments, right? Concepts, learnings, maybe it's a quote. I mean, anything that is going to give you kind of inspiration to really focus on reflecting about what that next thing is. I always tell clients that I coach, no matter what, like the alignment has to be there from your head to your heart to your gut. And if you're listening, right, what that alignment means, what that next thing, the next right step may be for you. So, I always tell people, I use my layoff and turn that into a launch pad, right, to launch a business, to help others do something that I loved so very much and knew that there was just a different way that I could continue to make an impact there.
Leveraging your layoff as a launch pad. I like that. Yeah. That's a great takeaway, quite honestly.
And a bit of a tongue twister.
It is. Are you making fun of me? I think you are. And that's okay.
No, I would have. You would have tongue twisted that one too.
Okay, fair enough. So Shelby, with this, number one, I think it's fascinating. This concept. I guess I have a question around. So when you approached this, or doing the Ikigai following layoff, did you approach it really from ground zero, as far as like you've had no education or training towards medical affairs, or did you do that with that lens, right? So I was just trying to understand, because I think it could be scary at times for people to realize that they're doing something that really doesn't actually fulfill them. It can be, it really is freeing, but I'm just curious about that perspective as well too.
Or that may fulfill you more, right?
That's right. Here's what
I can say. I couldn't truly disassociate from the MSL role in my pharma experience because that's been my longest professional mainstay, honestly. But what I can tell you is if I go back from I finished my PGY1 residency and then my director left, and right away I had an opportunity to become a residency director, which was not part of what my planned, trajectory looked like. Sometimes opportunities present themselves at times when you're not paying attention, right? Or not even really looking. So I've been in a role to coach and to train and to mentor and to lead for a very long time. And it is the true undercurrent of every role that I've ever had, Chad. So I think for me, I knew what the passion was, right? That was very easy for me to identify. It was more along, how is that going to look, right? What is the mission in terms of what the world needs? And how can I translate that into a vocation and to a profession, right? That is different than, and I am, as you can tell, I have had a wide variety of background. I'm always looking to try something new. I think life's an adventure, and I'm a scientist and an experimenter, and I love to see, maybe there's something else. I always feel like I can always go back to any of those career options. But why not try something else when you're given, a launch pad?
It's having the mindset of freedom to fail, right? Versus fear of failure. And I think that's great. I think I similar, and if you've listened to this podcast before, I know I've said it many times, but similar to you, I was laid off a few years ago and took the opportunity to write a personal mission statement, right? And that became my North Star as far as, okay, when I'm interviewing, if it doesn't align with the things that I want or these key things that are going to bring me energy, all these types of things, then I can rule that out. And so that was really helpful for me as well too. So life's too short just to settle. And I think many people in the MSL role or even in leadership roles settle, whether it's settling in how they're doing their job or they're limiting themselves into the different types of opportunities that could potentially be there. So let's dig in a little bit more about your company. Tell me more about like how, so you went through this process and then what happened?
So then I started to identify that along the entire spectrum, right, of an MSL career, it is the end point, right? So an aspiring MSL component. Then there's mastering that role as an MSL, which we all know takes a minimum of 12 months and usually longer to truly get your feet underneath you in this role. And it takes years. This is a complex role. You all know that. So it's that piece of focusing on MSLs. And then those who are called, right, to lead teams of MSLs, which I was, having that coaching, that support from a fellow leader, someone who's been in the trenches, who knows and is experienced in that way, again, through the entire kind of career spectrum. So knew that's where I wanted to focus, was again, along that entire journey. Then wanted to identify, okay, does this look like one-on-one coaching, which was the very first offering that I launched. And now I've launched a group coaching community because what I've identified is that some people are ready. They're prepared to invest in that coaching, one-on-one to work. And these sessions are all via Zoom and we dig deep and, there's a level of vulnerability and trust that has to be there. And then others prefer a communal experience, right? A group coaching experience where you've got first and foremost connection and you have plus coaching, then plus the content. So I've got online resource library built in, again, a space for aspiring MSLs, a space for and community for MSLs, and a community for MSL leaders. And that is a new offering this year, at the end of December. So really looking to build it. LinkedIn is amazing, right? To build networking connections is what I call that. I'm not sold on the fact that it's the place to build deeper connection is how I will say.
It's totally surface level. I mean, yes, it could be a launching to your discussion earlier, launching pad to things, but that really is the limit of that. It's a great vehicle to get things started. I can see how you've leveraged even your experience as an MSL, right? When it comes to one of the things we do, or I often did, was bringing people together, whether it's fellowship programs, whether it was different providers. They want to learn from each other. It's almost like FOMO in ways, and so bringing value in that way, and so that direct application of how you're doing that with other leaders, I think that's a fantastic is creating an environment to replicate that. That's cool. That's really cool.
And I want to say that if you're not watching this right now and you're only listening, you don't realize how much energy and how passionate Shelby is about all of this. It's like a very controlled energy, but also, like, how many employees do you have, Shelby?
Me.
Okay. All of this stuff she says that she has created, and I've looked at it. She works 72 hours a day, clearly, to make all this happen. And it's incredible. And it is so high level and polished. And she's doing it all herself. And I don't think anybody would be doing this if it wasn't their Ikigai.
Pause right there, Mary. I will pause right there because I've got to give a shout out to my husband. He is my biggest cheerleader. He is my tech support. So I will say I did misspeak in that. I mean, he's been incredible in terms of providing all kinds of support. And although I'm the face, if you will, of the company, I don't do it without him. It's is
awesome.
Yeah, we do work along. A lot of hours, though. That is for sure.
That is fantastic. So you've got your sort of built-in support system there, personally and professionally.
That's it. I mean, right? Like that's it. So, I will say this, Chad. One more thing, is a third offering that I'm just starting is around professional branding. What I am finding, and it's a professional branding program that we work one-on-one to help people, because it is this number one thing that people reach out about. So that branding component would include CV, right? Your LinkedIn profile, your personal value proposition, and then your personal elevator pitch. And aligning all of those, again, I'm focused very specifically on MSL centricity, right? All of this is aligned with MSLs and MSL leaders and achieving that goal of landing your first MSL role. We are not well prepared and or educated anywhere that I can think of around speaking with confidence about being a subject matter expert on about ourselves and telling our signature story. And that matters so much right? In any position, at any job, in any profession. And I want to make sure people have the opportunity to have access to someone who can help coach them through that. So that's another piece.
No longer are the days. I know that there are some people, Mary, I'm not sure if you're one of them, the old school, I would call it the old school of like even the resumes, right? Or going through CVs. I mean, this 6 pages of things like that. I mean, it really is 1 to 2 pages. I mean, my goal was to get it down to 2 pages, and it was hard to do, but it really makes you think and be intentional. And how do you tell that story? It's no longer about just listing the responsibilities that you had, but like what kind of impact did you make, and all of those types of things as well, right?
You just spoke to her heart. You didn't even know you segued just there. I'm going to sit here and be quiet. Go ahead.
So let's dig in. Let's dig in a little bit more about the whole personal and professional branding.
Honestly, I still call it a CV, even though like my academic CV is like 15 pages long. Okay, guess what? I keep it fresh, if you will, for myself. It's like my own achievements, right? Love it. But Chad, to your point, that's not going to get it done in Med Affairs and in an MSL or MSL leadership role. Like I say 2 pages, and what that means is a front and a back. So technically 1 page, front and back. You've got to get it broken down so that it aligns to the MSL role, shifting from responsibilities to results. No one cares about a bulleted list of the responsibilities that you have. They want to see what impact that you're making and aligning it, again, to your role, MSL or MSL leadership.
I did that same exercise similar to this, or as far as rebranding or that whole personal branding. And I can't tell you for the first time how important this is. And I think our listeners need to hear this. When I went for the job that I ended up taking after that resume update, I got on the call with the hiring manager, and she literally said, well, I don't need to really talk about or ask you a lot of questions about your experience because this is the cleanest and clearest resume I've ever seen. And it still floats around. She just wanted to get to know me as a person because it had the things that were done, the results, and what was the end game of this. It wasn't just I led a conference, right? What does that mean?
So since you've been through this corporate downsizing, figure out where I want to go in life, you've had an opportunity where you've reflected really deeply on your career and what your future is meant to be. So so there has been quite a bit of upheaval lately in big company and people that I've talked to, and I think we discussed this before, that never in a million years expected that they would find themselves in a career transition. So like, what advice would you give them, i.e. words of hope, suggestions to kind of navigate themselves through this?
This is where one of the key takeaways was around continuously tailoring and updating your professional branding. And this is the why behind it. We know pharma and biotech, this is a volatile industry. We know that it's not the only industry that's volatile. Ensuring that you're prepared, right, when the unexpected happens, you don't know. No one is exempt. If for any reasons, whatever reason there's a reduction in field force or headcount or whatever it happens to be, you have to make sure you're prepared, right, for that next step. You need to be planning for the unexpected at the end of the day. So keeping your CV updated, okay? It doesn't take long. I understand nobody really maybe enjoys that process, but keeping that updated. LinkedIn profile as well. I mean, you're adding skills every single time you shift or have a different project that you're working on as an MSL or leader or engaged with some kind of cross-functional collaboration. I mean, all of those skills, keeping those current. Keep those current on your LinkedIn profile. A lot of people set it and forget it. That doesn't work anymore, right? Instead of this major overhaul, be proactive. I mean, literally put it on your calendar. That's what I used to do. Like once a quarter or twice a year, mid-year evaluation time and year end, I'd go back in and just do a refresh, make sure that's aligned and make it an active practice. But to that other point though, the personal value proposition, right? I always call this is a way to showcase your superpowers, right? Those transferable skills is the buzzword there. Like, you got to know what you're bringing to the table. Because if you don't know what that is, and you haven't honed that and updated it and tailored it, right, for that next role, trust me when I say, it's going to be evident. I've been a hiring manager, not exclusively in pharma, but in other types of pharmacy for 15 years. Somebody, when they walk in, that first impression matters, right? You can tell when somebody has the confidence and then the poise and the polish, communicate their value and how they can help you, right, in whatever role they're looking to pursue.
So wait, you're talking about the WIFM, right? So the what's in it for me, right? I think that's one of the things we have to be able to communicate. That I even talked to, I used to tell my MSLs about that as well too, even with emails to KOLs. I mean, oftentimes we start out saying, hi, my name is this, I am this, trying to build confidence. And what does that look like? I mean, that's while that's good to do that, I mean, but what's going to entice somebody that wants to open that in the midst of 200 other emails that they have as well too? So what are you doing that's benefiting them at first too? Give them a compelling reason. I just saw that you published this. I would love to learn more about it. By the way, my name is so-and-so and I'm this. I mean, start with them first. And so for the same rule applies with the interview, I would say as well too. I mean, what is it that you're going to bring to the table? I love that. That leads to the elevator pitch. So you mentioned that earlier. You talked about that. Tell us more about what that means.
So I did an entire presentation to the Emory Aspiring MSL group that they have, right? So it's Emory and I believe Georgia Tech. So to this group specifically about designing your personal elevator pitch. Yeah. So in that, really, you can use this multiple ways, but think of it in general as when somebody gives you that softball question of, tell me about yourself, you should have 1 minute worth of not a canned robotic response, but something that's telling them who you are in terms of your background and experience, something that's telling them about your current role and the skills, right, that you're utilizing and how you're doing the work that you're doing, and then kind of where you're headed. What's the future looking like? And especially if you're in an interview, why this role? Why this company? What's the mission? Did it align with you? The pipeline, the values, the corporate culture, whatever it is, you're literally creating a hook to pique their interest. That's what you're doing there, right? And that could be not only at the tell me about yourself in an interview, but it might be when you're working with a recruiter, right? And having that very first engagement or a networking event or your first LinkedIn message or, I mean, anything, any way that you are networking or sharing a bit about yourself and remembering, Chad, same thing as you just said, what's in it for them, right? Like, why are you reaching out? Why are you connecting? Do you have this incredible expertise in, I don't know, whatever, or research experience or skill set that aligns with the role that you're looking for? Awesome. How are you going to bring them value, right? And MSLs and MSL leaders, I feel like we're always focusing on, people are sharing the why they want the role. And I say, hey, you got to be thinking about how you're bringing value to the hiring manager, to the MSL team, right? To the KOL, of course, right? And to the company. Like, you've got to put on that lens for each of those focal points, right? What do you bring to the table?
I love that you call it the personal value proposition, because, that term value proposition we hear in pharma all the time, but it's usually about what is your drug's value proposition, as compared to whatever else is out there that you're competing with. But I think it's so poignant because if you're thinking about in terms of an MSL visiting a particular thought leader who sees, let's just say it's sort of a crowded space and there's like 5 or 6 MSLs that they see, who are they going to remember is the one that they know what their value proposition is to that particular thought leader.
Yeah, it's that, Mary.
And they can learn that through this program.
And you can package all of that up, right? This professional branding and that, just a giant topic, but really it's around establishing your credibility, right? And ensuring that people trust you, that they're able to connect with you because they know you're a trusted, credible, knowledgeable resource. Like that's it. That's what you're doing, whether it's engaging with a KOL or leading a team, right? People want a leader who is authentic, who is credible, who is trustworthy, all of those things. I mean, so it aligns in so many different ways, but, all kind of under that heading of professional branding. So,
and I know my recruiters are going to love to hear this because these are things they live by, establishing their value proposition to the people in the medical affairs community and what their value is, what their credibility is. So I often say there's a lot of similarities between what MSLs do and what recruiters do, good ones anyway. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I could see that. Look, so you can see on his face he's about to say something. So
you're apologizing because I'm about to say something, Mary?
Yeah,
is that what you
to the
said?
guests.
I
No,
think so. I think so. So Shelby, your experience as what you said resonated. What your experience as a hiring manager, I don't know if you're similar, but when I interview people, I can usually tell within 2 minutes if there's someone I'm going to move forward. And a lot of that comes with the branding, knowing who they are, like you just mentioned, how captivating they are, and then how they sell themselves. I think we have to move past this mindset of, well, I'm a scientist, I don't do any selling, I don't like that. I mean, you have to be able to sell yourself. You have to be able to close a deal in ways. You have to be convincing and learn how to influence. I mean, there is this, EQ is just as important as IQ, right? And how we communicate that. I mean, I always go back to the Maya Angelou quote about, they don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And words are important, don't get me wrong, but that often is the vehicle to make someone feel inspired, or even like, hey, I really think that this person would be a fantastic fit. Would you say that you had similar experiences as a hiring manager?
Absolutely. Which is why I was telling these aspiring MSL, right, that listen, I'm telling you to capture this in 60 seconds, but you probably got closer to 10. I mean, honestly, those first impressions, they matter. Now, I'm not saying I jump to a snap decision in 10 seconds as a hiring manager. What I'm saying is that first impression matters, right? People decide your nonverbal communication, right? The confidence, your posture, all of those pieces, whether or not you're credible enough to continue to listen to truly engage with, right? Very, very quickly. In a few seconds, people will decide. If you're at a podium or whatever it is, they decide, are you credible? Do I trust you? Do you have the expertise? And are you knowledgeable, right? All of those decisions are made. So like, you must be prepared. And I call it poise and polish, right? You must be poised. You must have polish. You can do that. Again, becoming a subject matter expert on you to tell your signature story. That is what you want to do to tie all of your branding together. And it can be, again, used in so many ways. I mean, not just in interviews, right? Beyond that, way beyond that.
So your program focuses on the whole gamut of MSLs, right? Between the MSL aspiring one to leadership. Let's dig in for a second. I'm curious, what about those that are interested in making the transition to leadership roles? I mean, again, the premise of our podcast was really the idea of people get promoted because they kill it in their individual role. And there's this idea that they can just replicate that by doing the things that they did, and it's a completely different skill set, right? So, do you have ways of helping support people who think that they're interested in leadership to really feel like that is an aligned gifting to them? How do you walk through and coach to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was just going to say, now, we all know that sort of this progression, if you will, in terms of careers might look like for an MSL, a regional director and a national director. Now, that was my path. I will say that. I know that was the path that I chose. However, if you are not called to be a people leader, that is not likely a role that maybe aligns, right, with where your skills are. And that's okay, right? You have to have that level of self-awareness. It's not simply making the trek up the ladder. I mean, this is one of the things that I help people try to identify. Hey, is this really a calling? Is this what you value? Are you passionate about leading people? It isn't just the next rung on the ladder. You really have to be self-aware and do kind of an inventory of if that's the right next step. So that's step one, to be honest with you. I don't believe everyone should be an MSL leader who is a current MSL, nor do all MSLs want to to lead a team. Understood. But I think that's the first step in that process. If in fact you have identified that aligns with what you love to do and what you're choosing to do, right? Then it's an entirely different skill set to that point, Chad, right? You are having to, be prepared and emotionally intelligent enough to create a psychologically safe environment for people to come to work. You need to be able to have an open space, an opportunity to let people share. So your communication style must adapt yet again, right? From the MSL role as an individual contributor to leading team members, to building trust, to having your own level of executive presence and what that means as a leader, right? Be a strategic thinker. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity there. And so I coach people to those skill sets as well. It can be learned. Many of these things can be learned and enhanced, but what can't be coached is your passion, right? To lead people. Like that is something only you know if it is the right next step for you.
Yeah, so for the listeners who are listening and think that maybe Chad and Shelby are related, or that they've been friends for years because they're speaking the same language, they have not known each other for years. But if you're not watching, you can't see the smile on his face because he is like, yes, girl. Yes, queen. You're speaking my language.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can be a manager, right?
Yes.
Leadership is different. I always made the joke. You don't hear anybody calling someone a micro leader, do you? I mean, it's always a micromanager, right? So, yes, management is a component of it, but it goes beyond so much more. And how do you maximize your team's capabilities? How do you identify their giftings to where it makes the organization and the team better? How do you if you like to serve, then I think you'd be a great leader. I think that's really a first question that I would ask is, where do you get most satisfaction, right? Is it serving others and helping them, or is it a personal achievement, right? So I think you can have both. But to me, I think that's one of the things that really distinguishes people as those true leaders. So I think I love that you help people walk through those types of things. It's a constant learning. And I guess that really kind of goes to your last takeaway that you shared about really, learning should never stop, right? You talked about your own journey with that. So not being too senior experience to benefit from training. So tell us a little bit about, your experience with, supporting those that may have been in the role for 10 years or even longer, right? And then even how your journey has benefited and how you're continuing to learn to support others.
Yeah. So we said how, being an MSL, right, that takes time. It takes time to truly understand the complexities of the role. And I did not appreciate that, to be very transparent. When I accepted my first job, I had no idea, honestly. And even as an MSL leader, although I've been a leader in the past, right, in other positions, right, within my pharmacy career, leading a team of MSLs, a remote team, right, where you're mixing, dynamics and personalities and corporate culture and all of those pieces and learning how to lead in that way. It's a very different thing. For me, I always recognize and try to remind people, like, you're never too seasoned to continue learning. Never. There's no end point at which you say, I've got it all down. There's always something to be learned. And for me, obviously, I continue to challenge myself to learn by trying new things in terms of my own career. And I know that not everyone may be interested, right, in this type of coaching and this type of connection or community. But I truly believe it is the best way. No one operates in isolation. No one. And it does not matter. right? Those connections and the coaching and the content and the community aspect of it is so huge, so huge. Paying that forward to others who are walking or have had the same experience as you had. There's always something, right? A tip or a nugget or a pearl that you can learn when you're having those types of engagement. And, I've been using it my whole life, right? My whole life. And also obviously my pharmacy career. And yeah, there's just no end to it. And as an MSL and an MSL leader, I mean, this entire journey is around intellectual curiosity, right? And keeping that fire burning to always learn something new. So, just remind people that even if you're a 25-year veteran, which I know some MSLs who have been in that role for 25 years, and they are incredible wealth of knowledge, but all of them would say they don't know it all. Everyone would say there's still something left to be learned.
Having a community to share successes, but even we talked about not being afraid of trying things, right? Sharing where you have, I hate even saying the word fail, but I mean where you've learned in a hard way, right? Lessons learned with that. You need to be sponsoring our podcast, I guess, because you took the words, our phrase out, right? So that's one of the things about that's what I always typically will end my post with is leaders don't develop in isolation. Leaders learn from leaders. And you had me at hello. You're speaking my my love language. Definitely need to check this out. Really want to encourage our listeners to check out Thrive MSL and all the different resources that are there. So
there are some big companies that have like leadership training programs. Like if you're interested in being a leader, you can be in our leadership development program. Not all companies have those. I would say most of them don't. And most of them probably handpick the people who are the best MSLs to be in the leadership roles rather than looking for those right attributes. So, I mean, your program is going to be great for people who don't have those kinds of leadership development programs at their existing companies. And I also want to say for our listeners who are either MSLs or MSL directors, I get calls and emails and texts all the time saying, I am looking for someone who does career coaching for MSLs, MSL training and development, to refer to my team, and not like to take my whole team and give them to this person, but to offer as resources to individual people on their team, because they recognize that maybe they're not the person themselves to help this MSL develop. And if that's the case, you need to reach out to Shelby.
Thanks. I will say this, and leaders who do that, Mary, to me, that's incredible self-awareness, right? I mean, style, approach, personality, all of those things, right? You've got to find a right fit. And for me, it's around figuring out, right, how to uncover what that looks like for each individual MSL. Honestly, I'm a little bit on a crusade here to shift the way, and I've been in this industry for a long time, right, in terms of med affairs, but, I've had a lot of presenters come in to group team trainings, and they get out their easel, and there's some activities at the round tables and all that. Now, you know what? There's no shame in that. That's fine. It's fine. What I told you earlier, Mary, is I kind of want to shift that on its head a little bit and say, okay, when you have a one-size-fits-all type approach to training, right, and to helping people become the best version in their role, that's really it should be a customized and a tailored experience, because a first-year MSL does not need the same thing as a 20-year veteran, right? And it really training and coaching to the individual MSL, getting you the biggest impact, the most value, the best bang for your buck, however you want to say it, that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. So offer that too.
And there's benefits all around, right? I mean, you even think about the investment in your people. People stay with jobs, and they're because of being satisfied, not only with the job that they're doing, but the opportunities to learn and grow, right? So this is a perfect way to ensure that happens. I mean, as leaders, we are stretched and limited in our time and things like that. So why wouldn't we? I love that approach of trying to leverage some of the resource that the companies give sometimes, whether it's a stipend or whatnot, to invest in this from a professional development. It goes back to the whole IDP thing that we had a podcast on that as well too, making sure that that's a part of that as well too. So
shout out to Canal.
Yep, exactly.
So when the NCAA tournament rolls around, my kids tend to laugh at me because when we do our brackets, I always say, okay, that's a pharmacy school, so I'm picking them to win. So they're like, Temple, they're like, Creighton. Why don't you pick Creighton? Creighton's a pharmacy school, so obviously they're going to have a good basketball team. So
goes hand in hand.
Right. So as a Creighton basketball fan, you must be getting ready for March Madness.
Yeah. I literally off work, Mary. I am that person. I am. I own it. I love it. I love March Madness.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome. See, got a little bit of sports in there. Even you've got to keep our people who think we're not sports people engaged. No. But I'm all over the March Madness.
Multi-sports fan. Creighton men's basketball team is my number one favorite. So I did teach at Creighton. So my academic career was there prior to taking my first MSL role. So I'm a huge advocate. I also think, go Big East. And so go Jays is what I'm going to have to say about that. So definitely pick them in your, we'll see. I never know.
Yeah. I'm keeping quiet because my team has not done too well. We're struggling here. So
now Arkansas is a basketball school.
Well, I know, but that hasn't really panned out very well so far. But nevertheless,
so do you draw any leadership parallels from the sports world? Do you see some things that you're like, we should apply that to our professional world?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, but I feel like that's a whole other podcast, Mary. So I can come back and talk about that all day, literally. Because yes is the short answer. And there are
we're bringing Shelby back. She's going to come on and we're going to talk sports and leadership.
We're going to do both. Okay. That's a great topic. And we definitely have to get that on the books. So that said, great discussion today. I love the takeaways, Shelby. Before we wrap up, anything that you want to share again? Want to make sure you have time to share about the great work that you're doing. So any final takeaways?
Yeah, I think honestly, right now is the time. If you're questioning it, wondering, what is it that I have left to learn? What is it, if you have a space and an opportunity, right, that you've identified, no time like the present. This is time. Invest in yourself. You are worth it. You are worth it. We can coach you. There's ways to be, bridge that gap. Honestly, the MSL role is one of the best out there. It's one of the absolute best jobs I believe that there is. And to thrive is to prosper and to flourish. And that really is what I want for every MSL and every MSL leader, right? Not only at work, but also at home, and ensuring that you have a healthy balance, because it's easy to lose track is what I'll say, and to have that imbalance. So really focusing at Thrive MSL on empowering and equipping MSLs to thrive at professionally and personally. So
the best way to reach out to you. Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's exactly where I was headed. You led right into it.
Perfect.
You guys are so in sync.
Yeah.
So, yes, on LinkedIn, please reach out, message me. It really is the best way to connect, and then we can take it from there. And obviously, if you want more information, you can go to thrivemsl.com. That whole website built by my husband.
Right on.
Mary, it's been great. Shelby, it's been great to meet you. And as I didn't realize I had a long lost friend that I just had not been able to connect with and for so long, but now the relationship is open and started, so we are good to go. And I think we're going to have I hope we have several other opportunities to connect, Shelby. So thanks so much for joining us. Listeners, thanks again for tuning in for MSL Lead Chronicles. Just as a reminder, leaders don't develop in isolation. Leaders learn from leaders. With that, make sure that you go to Thrive MSL, check it out so you can join a community to support you on your journey in medical affairs. With that, have a good one. We will see you next time.